Good morning. I'm Dave Apsley. I'm a forester and a natural resources specialist with Ohio State University Extension. Today I'm clinging to the bank of this little stream that runs through Jackson, Ohio. I'm actually at Eddie Jones Park, and I'd like to introduce you to eastern cottonwood. Eastern cottonwood is usually a riparian species, which means it grows along stream sides or on floodplains. It's a tree that can be massive. I've seen these things well over 3 feet in diameter, approaching 4 feet in diameter, and well over 150 feet in height. The books and the textbooks say they can reach 200 feet in height, which makes them one of the taller trees in the eastern United States. So how do we identify eastern cottonwood? First of all, eastern cottonwood has alternate, simple leaves. So the leaves alternate sides of the twigs, and they have a single leaf blade. These single leaf blades can be anywhere from 3 to about 6 inches in length. Typically on a mature tree, they're going to be closer to the 3. On a sprout, they can be much larger, but again, about 3 to 6 inches in length. And they'll have a petiole that's just about the same length, maybe a little bit shorter. So they might be 3 to 4 or 5 inches in length. But the scientific name for eastern cottonwood is Populus deltoides, which means triangular. So that's where the scientific name comes from. And if you look at this leaf, it's almost a perfect equilateral triangle. It has a flattened base and then 2 other sides. Comes to a nice tip. The leaf surface is somewhat glossy, and then this edge or margin is what we call crenate. Crenate means toothed, but they're more rounded teeth. They're not a sharp pointed tooth like we think of a serrated knife. They're more rounded. So they have this rounded tooth margin, flat base, and then another unique characteristic of trees in this genus, Populus, are the flattened petioles. Flattened petioles are common among the aspens, like quaking and bigtooth aspen, and the cottonwoods. The eastern cottonwood also has a flattened petiole, which makes it very flimsy, so it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to get them to move. In fact, even on a very calm day where you've got just heat rising, thermals rising, you'll see these moving, just like the quaking aspen or the trembling aspen. So how else do we identify eastern cottonwood? The twigs are very stout. They tend to be somewhat angled, so you'll feel them, they'll feel a little bit ridged. They're going to be almost an olive green color with lighter dots or lineacles. They'll have large buds. These buds can be 3/4 or 1 inch in length, and they can be very shiny or resinous. So that's a great identifier too. If you grab it and feel it, it feels just a little bit sticky. What's interesting, I often find under large cottonwood trees, big branches that are just like dislocated. It looks like they've just been pulled out of the socket and fall down. I think that's a drought adaptation, which allows them, when they get under severe drought conditions, instead of being severely damaged, they just shed small branches, and that allows them to kind of thin that crown and decrease their moisture stress. They'll have these drooping flowers in the spring, not showy at all, but then later in the spring they'll produce these seeds in these little cottony masses, and when you've got a lot of cottonwood around, you'll see cotton looking structures all over the ground surface, and you'll see them blowing around and sometimes piling up in little piles. So that's an interesting thing, and that's where it gets its common name, cottonwood, because the seed look like little cotton balls. This, as I mentioned, can be a fairly large tree, and when it gets mature, it has a beautiful bark. It usually doesn't have many branches. It has a nice straight bole if it's growing in a crowded forest condition, and then it'll have this deep furrowed bark. These furrows can be 3 or 4 inches deep and real tall ridges, and that's what makes this pretty easy to identify on floodplains. So this is eastern cottonwood. It can be a very large tree on floodplain forests, so that's one of the major roles of this species. It helps to keep these floodplain forests intact, helps to hold stream banks, and provide shade over these streams. Thanks so much for your time, and please take at least part of your day to enjoy it in the woods.